Hello everybody, how's it going today? It's Frankie here and I'm back with another movie review. I have no idea what to say about this movie. It's called Being. Started off as decent. I thought it was going to be one of those decent movies. It just ended up to be kind of average for me. There's not really much to talk about in this movie. It's an hour and 24-minute movie. It felt quite short. Lack of anything going on in the movie at all. But the acting was brilliant from the characters, I must say. I recognise a lot of the characters there. It starts off with Reverend Campbell making a speech. I can't remember what he said in the speech. And then it cuts like Agent Costa and Dixon, interviewing Joseph on why he disappeared for like 6 years, and Joseph starts telling him the story. They also interview someone called Dale, which is I think Joseph's brother. Bear in mind, this is one of those movies where the characters that get interviewed basically, and there's like scenes of what happened whilst they talk about it. It's like a story basically. It's like that movie that I did a review on called Kill 'Em All, the first one with Jean-Claude Van Damme, where like a woman that interviewed and tells them what happened, and then it cuts like the scenes like, of what was happening. That sort of movie basically. I don't mind them. It's just that I'm not sure how to feel about them half the time. And there's not really many scenes. You see like the Campbell family in like a rural area, and there's a lot of tension there. And then they see the lights go out, and yeah, then they start to wonder what was going on with Joseph, why he went missing. And you see that Carl, this Carl dude, he's a bit like, also stressed out, and as they all are. You see like Grace and Tanya. So yeah, there's not really much happening. You see like Joseph going to, calling, Ray up, which is like the office of the sheriff basically. Sheriff's asking him, does your brother know you're there? He goes into a loft and he steps in a bear trap. And I'm pretty sure he did get abducted, because there's something about him that he knows these beings when he knows what's happening. I was surprised by the lack of, I know the movie's called Being, so I don't know why I read that as multiple. It just says one, it just says Being without the S. But there should have been more to it actually. And then they're wondering, the coincidence, and you see Carl got given a book or something. Well, Carl gives, I think it was Carl or Joseph that gave Dennis a book. And he's sort of like, Carl gives us some sort of monologue, like some piece of dialogue there about what their dad said, and about the truth and stuff. Like, you have to watch, what I'm talking about. I'm not going to go into details on that one. And then they go into like the barn, I think, the barn. They go around somewhere like a workshop or something like that, and they see a being behind some sort of like wherever it was. And I think Carl tries to shoot it. I don't know. I don't think he got him. And then you see like, I think was it Tanya that shoots Dennis. Well, Alan in the leg. That's her husband. That's her husband anyway. And yeah, and I think Alan dies of the gunshot wound eventually. And then the being is sort of like in the house now. The movie sort of gets interesting from 37 minutes, nearly 40 minutes. Not as interesting as I expected it to be. It's great acting, but nothing happened in the movie whatsoever apart from those moments. I thought it was going to get exciting. Nothing much really happens. And then you see the being come out. Kind of looks like an alien version of The Grudge. Whoever's watched the movie, know what I'm talking about. And then Joseph says to the being he wants to go back. I'm actually quite surprised. I would be scared to go back, if I'm being honest. And then he sees Grace. I think Grace kind of got like taken over by the being as such, and she just falls to the ground. Yeah. And then not Grace, Tanya falls to the ground, and Grace walks in. And surprising that the pregnant character isn't sort of getting much stress up. She's more calm than anything, which is something. Not saying that all pregnant women have to be like stressed in that situation. I'm just saying in general, usually every pregnant character I see, they go through loads of stress. But they made this one different. And literally, I thought the being was going to go after Grace because she's pregnant. And like beings and spirits, they like like babies and stuff like that. More like a gift, because babies are highly they're important. It's hard for me to explain. And yeah, but they actually wanted Joseph back because Joseph was there. So I think because he's there, they've sort of like wanted to, like the beings all want to take him. So they want to take him back basically. And then Tanya's eyes sort of just, there was no pupils in her eyes. and they were thinking, what the hell is going on? And yeah, like I said, there's not much in this movie anyway. And then Tanya starts saying, the hunter becomes a hunted. How you'll never defeat us, something like that. Talking about fear and whatnot. Yeah, I found that interesting in that movie. That's a bit. It felt like it was a bit horror orientated. I felt like it was a bit horror. I know I use it orientated. It's nothing to do with this. I don't think that word. Yeah, I don't use that word correctly. I think. Yeah, if there's a horror element to that, I guess I would assume most alien movies would be horror anyway, wouldn't it? In such area, but yeah, there's nothing much really happened. And Agent Dixon Costas talks to Dale, and Dale doesn't really say much to them. Dale and Joseph just tells them like the story, and they don't believe it, obviously. They think there's something more to it, and yeah, you see that a lot of movies. No one believes the story about an alien or being and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm not being rude, but they believe it. Like, yeah, I'm not gonna say that sort of main belief that a lot of people have. But yeah, that's what I mean. So it's kind of strange, that one. Yeah, and then you see towards the end, Carl, throws that shooting him, but then Grace sort of comes in with a fire pan and hits him over the head. Yeah, so and towards the end bit there was and there was some interesting pieces of that. Oh, just the cat at the moment. And yeah, towards the end as well, there was like this crazy burst of light that comes in through the barn door, and Joseph sort of wants to go back. Grace sort of goes in as well, and I think she got shot by, who was it that shot? Was it Dale? I think it might have been Dale that shot her, but then I thought when Carl nudged him, I thought he missed and hit the alien, but I think he might have got shot, I don't know. And then it just cut to like, Grace being on the floor with Joseph and Dale being there, and she was like, how long has it been? And Dale asked about the baby, and she was like, what baby? It just felt kind of strange how all of a sudden they just, like, how, it's like she's in the same time frame, but yet she's been gone for ages. I never seem to understand that bit. Sure, she would have came back. I'm sure everything would have been more different. I don't know, I didn't get it at that moment right there. I would love to see the being a bit more up close. That's what I would have loved to see. I'll try and make this video a bit longer than possible. I don't usually like to do that, but this movie is nothing much happens in this movie, trust. Yeah, so, and at the end you see, like, towards the end you see Agent Dixon say to like, Joseph, you're free to go. They know what happened. The forensic team spoke to one of the officers and said, look, looks like you got a hell of a story to tell us, and it shows Tanya with her pupils gone. Sure, that should give them an indication that something far greater was caused it, and it does show that Joseph was telling the truth. Notice how when detectives or police officers are wrong, even though they're FBI, notice how they're wrong and they find out their case is related to aliens. They don't admit that they're wrong. They just be like, okay, you're free to go. Which shows that they dealt with stuff like this. Of course, FBI and CIA always deal with stuff like this, so there's no shock to them. They've heard of stories like this before. It doesn't even make any difference. They've heard of it before. They just want to test them out and see what else they say. They want to hear from the people itself that they're interviewing. So yeah, and you see, I think the Reverend at the end. Well, actually, I think that was the ending. But let me go back a scene on that one and go to an Agent Dixon gets a phone call from like this dude. I don't know what this dude's name is. It didn't say the name. And this dude was like flicking through like a classified document. It was about an Archon or something like that. I think I pronounced that correctly. And yeah, Agent Costa does not know what's happening. So Agent Dixon definitely knows something. So he was like, yeah, I'll definitely have something done. I'll definitely do something about it, which is interesting right there to me. And then comes the end bit. I mean, the end bit is obviously Joseph moving and driving off somewhere else. But you see like the Reverend, who's also like the Campbell's father, obviously, Reverend Campbell. He tells his son, Ray, to make this a classified, to make this case classified. Because obviously if this gets out, the whole world will be a panic. Not just that one place in particular, everyone will be panicked. So he said, just make sure you write down, a note saying they unaligned themselves or whatever it is. I don't know if I could use that word begin with S to say that. You know, like that basically. Or he said just say that they went missing or something happened to them or whatever, or just make up some lies. And Ray doesn't want to do that, but he has to, just so to keep the public at ease. And then he sort of makes a speech, you know, at the end to the people. They're saying, no, there's an act of the devil playing here. You know, we will be sure to get rid of the devil immediately and to bring peace upon everybody. So yeah, he had to lie. I really wish, I mean, I'm a strong believer in aliens, and it's not a controversial thing here, but I do strongly believe in them. I do sometimes, I actually do understand why the government had to keep a secret. Imagine that go out to the public in the world. The whole world would be crazy. Could you imagine? I mean, I'd be there loving it, because I knew from the get-go that they exist. It's just there's a lot of people out there don't really necessarily believe in that. So imagine that go out. So I can see why they have to keep that quiet and classified. But these movies sort of show that stuff like that will get out eventually. Not in this movie that they show in particular, but there's movies like this where stuff like this goes out, and it goes out eventually. You know, they could prolong it for as much as they want, but it goes out eventually. You know, so excuse me. Oh, a bit of a burp there. So yeah, rating for this, fairly standard. It's an average type of movie. 5. I would say 5 out of 10, to be honest. I was going to give it a 6 because of the light scene. I mean, there wasn't really all that actually. This movie, I read about this movie, and they said, oh, burst of light. On the site they said this, because when you go on the IMDb site, it says something completely different. So when the site, and they said, oh, a burst of light changes everything. It was only that burst of light we saw that one scene. That was it, which was highly disappointing for a movie like this. It had so much promise. The acting was so good. That's what I mean. The acting was so good that it needed more in this movie. We only got to see the being now in 2 scenes. Well, there's that scene where Carl, I think, was having a nightmare, and he just saw the being in his second nightmare. But other than that, we didn't really see much of the being. We don't know anything about the being, apart from where, you know, I've seen movies where you see aliens out there, and they just, you know a lot about them. This being did not, it felt like a zombie more, like, I don't know, it felt like a grudge type zombie, if you could put it that way. I have no idea. I just don't, I think like everything else needs improvement. Needed more story, needed more scenes of the being, needed a lot more intensity, needed a lot more craziness into it. The interview part, I can see why they did that, because of the guys telling the story. That kind of makes sense. But at the same time, nothing much was in the movie. It just felt like they could have shortened it. They could have made an hour and 10, because it didn't feel like anything happened. The first 37 minutes was just completely dead. Literally nothing, just all talk. There was tension with the family members. That was it. I wasn't feeling it. I really wasn't. I mean, there's the odd scene where, you know, Joseph was having flashbacks. They didn't last so. We didn't get. It would have been nice if they also had more in the flashbacks, like those other movies. No, it would have been nice at least, but it's a shame they didn't include that, because the movie I watched last night, oh my goodness, what was it called? It was called Alien Battlefield. The you know, Christopher's visions were more vivid, where there was more detail into it slightly. There's not much detail into Joseph's visions, you know, so more into it. Acting and the actors were just brilliant. I can't lie on that one. It's just a shame that it was ruined by not enough detail in the movie. But yeah, I wouldn't be disheartened. I mean, the acting's good, just needed a lot more in it. I know maybe the theme of the movie wasn't necessarily about having to put more into it, it was just about the storyline mostly. I get it. I'm all for dialogue. There's got to be talking in movies. Just depends on the type of movie and the style. But for me, too much talking ahead of action, or ahead of like craziness happening, that makes it a bit boring. So yeah, that's why I highly think the movie's average. Anyways, 5 out of 10 it is. If you enjoyed the video, please give a like, comment, share, you know, subscribe, hit the notification below. So see you in my next video.